online classes and home tuition, IELTS, spoken English, O-level English, matric science subjects, BA English, Inter or FA English, grade 1 to 8, all subjects for home tuition. Contact 0301 460 4168. This is today's news on front page dawn. New system to replace district headquarter hospitals, says Prime Minister, by Mansoor Malik, 1st January 2022. Lahore Prime Minister Imran Khan on Friday announced that the government would shut down all district headquarters, DHQ hospitals, and facilitate the private sector to ensure provision of health care to people in far-off areas through the Naya Pakistan National Health Card. Speaking at the launch of the health card at a ceremony at the Governor House, the Prime Minister regretted that the DHQ hospitals were lying deserted because of the absence of doctors there. Why should the government spend money if doctors are not going to the DHQ hospitals to serve the masses? He asked. The Prime Minister said the health card would be available in Lahore division from January 1 today, and all families across Punjab would be covered by March 2022. Calling it a big step towards the creation of a welfare state, the Prime Minister said the government would be spending rupees 400 billion to offer health insurance to 30 million families in Punjab. He said the huge investment in the health card scheme would help create a robust health care structure across the province, and the government would be relieved of establishing new hospitals. Now the private sector will come forward and establish hospitals across the province, for which it would be incentivized, acquiring land on controlled rates and availability of duty-free imported medical equipment, he stressed. The private sector would be able to offer quality treatment to the masses even in far-flung areas in the province through the health card. The government wants all the poor people to be facilitated and helped to rise, as was the case in the welfare state of Medina, Mr. Khan said, and regretted that such a state did not exist in Muslim countries, but it did in Europe. After covering the entire Punjab, the Prime Minister said the health cards would be given to the people in Balochistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and Gilgit-Baltistan, where the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) had a government. Meanwhile, Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry appealed to the Sindh Chief Minister to review his decision and let the people of the province avail the facility of rupees 1 million health card. Earlier, Punjab Chief Minister Usman Buzdar said that about 35,000 jobs had been given in the health sector, adding that the promise of 100,000 jobs would also be fulfilled. Later, Prime Minister Khan held a series of meetings to review the status of development in Punjab. He also met the Provincial Minister for Sports and Pakistan Cricket Board Chairman Ramesh Raja. Punjab Finance Minister Hashim Jawan Bakht briefed the Prime Minister on the development budget amounting to rupees 74 billion, 740 billion. Prime Minister Khan also inaugurated a shelter home on Firozpur Road and said the PTI government was focusing on the welfare of downtrodden people. National Assembly session lasts 12 minutes, prorogued indefinitely by Syed Irfan Raza, 1st January 2022. Islamabad, the National Assembly session on Friday lasted only 12 minutes before being prorogued for an indefinite period, leaving the fate of the recently tabled controversial Finance Supplementary Bill 2021 hanging in the balance. However, the government believes that the bill would be passed smoothly with a simple majority in the next session of the House to be commenced in the middle of January. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said the bill had been sent to the Senate to meet the constitutional obligation of sending the bill to the upper house for seeking recommendations within 14 days of the tabling of the bill in the National Assembly. It has been learned that backdoor negotiations are in progress between the government and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) to convince the lender that the government was meeting its condition of getting finance supplementary bill 2021 and granting autonomy into the State Bank of Pakistan, and both the bills would be passed either before or after IMF meeting on January 12, in which $1 billion tranche for Pakistan is likely to be approved. The National Assembly session, presided over by Deputy Speaker Qasim Suri, was suspended for a few minutes when an opposition member pointed out the lack of quorum. Later, due to low attendance of the members, the session was prorogued for an indefinite period. Sources in the National Assembly Secretariat said it was unprecedented that the day after tabling an important bill, the Assembly session was prorogued without deciding the fate of the bill. A source in the government allies told Dawn that two main coalition partners of ruling Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI were unhappy over the Finance Supplementary Bill 2021, popularly known as mini budget. However, when contacted, the Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said both allies had approved the bill in a special cabinet meeting on Wednesday. The Pakistan Muslim League Fayed and the Muttahida Qawmi Movement have two ministers each in the cabinet, and they have approved the bill. He rejected the impression that the fate of the bill was hanging in balance and said it would be passed in the next session of the National Assembly to be held in the mid of January. He said it was mandatory under the Constitution to send the bill to the Senate for seeking recommendations, and that was why the bill had been transmitted into the upper house. The minister said the bill would be passed by the National Assembly in the mid of January, and the IMF had been asked to reschedule its meeting, which was to be held on January 12. It has also been learned that President Dr. Arif Alvi will summon a fresh session of the Senate next week. Talking to Dawn, advisor to the Prime Minister on Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Babar Awad said Under Article 89 of the Constitution, the bill was to be sent to the Senate within 14 days of its tabling in the National Assembly, and recommendations of the Senate would be incorporated or rejected at the time of the passage of the bill in the National Assembly. He also expressed hope that the government would get the bill passed in the next session of the National Assembly with a simple majority. Mr. Awant said when the bill was introduced in the National Assembly on Wednesday, attendance of the opposition members was quite low as compared to the Treasury benches. We will also show majority in the House when the bill will be passed in the next session. Replying to a question, the Prime Minister's advisors said the National Assembly's next session would be called on January 10. Prime Minister Imran Khan on Wednesday presided over a special meeting of the Federal Cabinet which approved Finance Supplementary Bill 2021, which was later introduced in the National Assembly by Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen. Later, the Prime Minister chaired a meeting of the PTI Parliamentary Party where the Finance Minister apprised the participants of the bill and also addressed their concerns about the amendments to the State Bank Act. The meeting of the Parliamentary Party was attended by the Cabinet members and other members of the Parliament, including government allies. On the other hand, the opposition which protested against the tabling of the bill in the National Assembly on Thursday continued to slam the government on Friday for introducing what it called the mini budget and believed that the bill would further increase food inflation in the country. The opposition alleged that the government was going to give the keys to the central bank of the IMF. ECC allows subsidy on 5 essential items for another month. By Mubarak Zeb Khan, 1st January 2022. Islamabad, the Economic Coordination Committee, ECC, of the Cabinet on Friday approved the continuation of untargeted subsidy on 5 essential food items at utility stores outlets for only 1 month, January 2022. The decision was taken at the meeting of the ECC presided over by Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen. December 31, 2021 was the deadline for the untargeted subsidy on wheat flour, sugar, vegetable ghee, pulses, and rice effective from January 1, 2021. The ECC approved a proposal of the Naya Pakistan Housing and Development Authority, NAPHDA, for revision of customer pricing and markup subsidy period under Tier 1 of the government scheme for low-cost housing and inclusion of the housing finance companies in the scheme for housing finance. The meeting directed that there should be no direct involvement of commercial banks in the NAPHDA projects. The meeting approved a proposal of the State Bank of Pakistan for incentives for exchange companies against the surrender of foreign exchange in the interbank market. The ECC approved rupees 8 billion funds against government's share for the Sialkot Sambrial Karya motorway project under the Public Sector Development Program, rupees 4 billion as upfront viability gap funding VGF and rupees 4 billion for overhead costs of the project. The ECC approved a summary of Industries Ministry regarding gas rate for operations of SNGPL-based plants, Fatima Fertilizer, and Agritech from October 2021 to January 2022, and to keep the rate at rupees 839 per unit million British thermal unit. The meeting approved the issuance of government's sovereign guarantee for National Engineering and Scientific Commission's NECOP project worth rupees 5.822 million for Hatch 4 and $26.154 million for Batch 5 in favor of China Electronics Technology Group, Beijing, to pay back loan in 7 years, including 2 years grace time. The ECC approved a summary of the Energy Ministry for issuance of sovereign guarantee amounting to rupees 24.188 billion in favor of Habib Metropolitan Bank Limited and a syndicate of 2 banks led by United Bank Limited UBL for the remaining tenure of the loan and the letter of comfort in favor of lender banks for a new financing agreement with respect to the Pipeline Infrastructure Development Project LNG 2. The ECC approved a summary submitted by the Communication Minister for extension in the timeline given to the National Highway Authority NHA for preparation of a commercially viable business plan till January 2022 with the same conditions regarding cash development loan as decided by the Federal Cabinet. The NHA's debt restructuring will be linked with the outcome of the business plan. The ECC directed the ministry to submit monthly progress report regularly and prepare the business plan well before the deadline. The Aviation Division submitted a summary about the financial challenges of Roosevelt Hotel, RHC, New York, and the request of PIA Investment Limited, PIAIL, for re-rolling of principal amount of rupees 142 million along with markup payments by National Bank of Pakistan for a further period of 2 years ending on December 31, 2024. The meeting was informed that PIAIL is unable to pay the principal amount of the loan and markup payments on behalf of RHC due its closing suspension. The ECC discussed and approved the proposal of the directive for the Aviation Division to prepare a roadmap for a permanent solution to the issue. The ECC approved in principle a summary of the Economic Affairs Ministry on global transition from LIBOR to alternative reference rates with a directive that the reference rates to be adopted in future by submitting be submitted to the ECC for approval. The meeting approved a technical supplementary grant TSG of rupees 90 million Chinese grant for a 1.2 MGD reserve osmosis desalination plant at Gavada. It also approved a TSD of rupees 14.621 million for purchase of spare parts for the helicopter maintained by Sindh Rangers, and another TSD for release of rupees 431.8880 million funds on project implementation. A letter of HQ Frontier Codes South Dera Ismail Khan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, funded by the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement, Pakistan. The ECC approved a TSG of rupees 751.486 million in favor of the Energy Ministry Power Division. The meeting advised the Ministry of National Health Services, Regulations and Coordination to review its budget, and demand should be met by reappropriation of funds within the budget for life-saving drugs to the Afghan people. The ECC considered and approved a summary submitted by the Ministry of Maritime Affairs for grant of relaxation and to the PNSC's 19 subsidiary companies from the applicability of the public sector companies' corporate governance rules. The ECC meeting was attended by Minister for National Food Security, Fakhr Imam, Minister for Planning and Development, Asad Umar, Minister for Industries, Khusro Bakhtiar, Minister for Energy, Hamad Azhar, Minister for Privatization, Muhammad Mia Somro, Minister for Railways, Asam Savati, Minister for Maritime Affairs, Ali Zedi, and the Federal Secretaries. COVID-19 vaccination target for 2021 met, Minister by Amish Yasin, 1st January 2022. Islamabad Minister for Planning and Development Asad Umar on Friday said Pakistan had achieved its target of vaccinating 70 million people against COVID-19 set for 2021, with 46% having been fully inoculated. On the other hand, the country was 515 people getting infected in a single day, the highest number since November 10, 2021, when 637 had tested positive. In his tweet, the minister said the target of vaccinating 70 million people by the end of 2021 had been achieved, adding the federal government had spent rupees 250 billion on procuring vaccines, which had made the massive immunization drive possible. To make this massive vaccination drive possible, the federal government has procured vaccines worth nearly 250 billion. 100% of vaccine procurement done by the federal government, which has provided free vaccines to all citizens regardless of which province they live in, he tweeted. He further stated, amongst the federating units, Islamabad leads with 77% fully vaccinated. Punjab is at 51%, Gilgit-Baltistan GB 46%, AJK 45%, Balochistan 42%, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa KP 41%, and Sindh at 37%. Of the total eligible population, 46% is fully vaccinated and 63% has received at least one dose. Asad Umar, who also heads the National Command and Operation Center, NCOC, praised the forum's team, the administrations of federal and provincial governments, as well as all health teams for their tireless efforts in achieving the target. Due to their tireless efforts, a target was achieved that was seemed and to be impossible, he said in his tweet. Retweeting Asad Umar's tweet, Minister of State for Information, Farooq Habib, commented, another milestone has been achieved in the ongoing vaccination against COVID-19, the completion of vaccination of 70 million people across the country, including Azad, Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan by the end of 2021 was a good omen. He said NCOC has set an excellent example of cooperation between the Federation, the provinces, and the institutions. Fake email about booster dose. The NCOC has denied sending emails to citizens in which it has asked them to get registered for availing the booster dose. In the fake email, citizens have been told to fulfill in a COVID-19 registration form for the booster dose, after which they will receive a message informing them about the date for getting the third vaccine. In a tweet, the NCOC said a fake email is circulating asking citizens for mandatory registration for vaccination. No such email is sent from NCOC, Ministry of National Health Services. Citizens are advised not to respond to such emails. FIA's cybercrime wing is tracking the origin for necessary action. The forum has announced that all vaccination centers across the country would remain closed for 2 days starting from January 1. The campaign will resume from January 3, 2022. Over 500 cases reported. Pakistan reported 515 COVID-19 cases after 1.5 months on Friday. Besides, 6 people lost their lives during the last 24 hours, the NCOC said. The last time the number of cases crossed the 500 mark was on November 10, when 637 people contracted the virus in a single day. However, number of cases started to fall from November 11 onwards. According to the data, the positivity rate was recorded at 1.07%. This too has risen over 1% for the first time since November. Elaborating on the details, the NCOC said 308 cases and 4 deaths were recorded in Sindh, while 115 people tested positive in Punjab. No death was reported in the province. The forum further revealed that 36 patients contracted the virus and 1 person died in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, 3 got infected and 1 died in Balochistan. 53 patients surfaced in Islamabad, while no new case was detected in Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad, Jammu and Kashmir. On the other hand, 406 people recovered from the deadly virus in the country, taking the overall recovery tally to 1,256,337. The NCOC data said, adding that 97% recoveries had been recorded since the start of the pandemic. The NCOC once again urged people to follow the standard operating procedures to prevent the spread of Omicron variant. IHC appoints AG Attorney General as prosecutor in affidavit case by Malik Asad, 1st January 2022. Islamabad. The Islamabad High Court, IHC, has appointed Attorney General Khalid Javed Khan as prosecutor in the contempt of court case against the former Chief Judge of Gilgit-Baltistan, Muhammad Sameem, editor-in-chief of the Junk Media Group, Mir Shakilur Rahman, and senior journalists Ansar Abbasi and Amir Gori in connection with the news report about the affidavit that accused the former Chief Justice of Pakistan, Saqib Nisar, of trying to delay the release from prison of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his daughter, Mariam Nawaz. The appointment of a prosecutor in the affidavit case came to light on Friday when ISC Chief Justice Atar bin Allah issued a written order about the court proceedings held on Tuesday. Regarding Mr. Shamim's affidavit that was delivered to the ISC in a sealed envelope, the order said the sealed package received through the courier service DHL from the United Kingdom was handed over by the registrar to Rana Muhammad Shamim. It contained another envelope having the seal of DHL. It contained a document which was confirmed by Rana Muhammad Shamim to be the same affidavit that was executed by him in the United Kingdom on November 10, 2021, and notarized by Charles D. Guthrie, solicitor. The document was sealed again by the court's registrar for its safe custody, said the order. The court noted that the contents of the affidavit were mentioned in a report published in the English newspaper, The News International, on November 15, that is 5 days after its execution. The affidavit related to pending proceedings and the appeals preferred by the persons mentioned therein were fixed before a division bench on November 17. The contents of the affidavit, as reported in the Daily Cast aspersions on the IHC and its judges, and also prima facie appeared to be an attempt to influence the court's proceedings and obstruct and interfere with the administration of justice, wrote Chief Justice Minella. He pointed out that the document was not part of any judicial record nor presented before any other authority. It appeared that the news report had been published by the newspaper without taking reasonable care. According to the order, the timing of the affidavit's execution and a publication of a news report soon afterwards was a crucial factor because of its consequences for the pending judicial proceedings and administration of justice. IHC's Chief Justice recalled that counsel Latif Afridi had argued that the affidavit was not intended to be made public nor meant to be shared with anyone, let alone the reporter in question, Ansar Abbasi. It had been argued, said the order, that no case of contempt was made out against Mr. Shamim because he had taken all reasonable care to ensure that it was neither leaked nor made public in any other manner. Mr. Shamim's stance that the affidavit could only have been leaked by the notary public in London, prima facie, raised serious doubts about his own credibility, the order said. The silence of the former chief judge of Gilgit-Baltistan for more than 3 years regarding an alleged grave misconduct on the part of the former Chief Justice of Pakistan also made his trustworthiness and probity questionable, Justice Minella wrote in his order. It initially appeared under the code that the role of Mir Shakilur Rahman, Amir Khori, and Mr. Abbasi was only to the extent of failing to take reasonable care before publishing a news report based on a leaked document. However, the stance of the latter two alleged contaminants is that they were justified in publishing a document having no evidentiary value whatsoever because it was in the public interest. This stance does not appear to be in consonance with the best international practices in the field of journalism, the IHC's Chief Justice wrote. It does not appear to be the function of a professional journalist to determine the factor of public interest and then publish a document having no evidentiary value, he added. If this argument is accepted, then anyone including litigants would be justified to indirectly influence the outcome of pending judicial proceedings and resort to media trial by using widely circulated newspapers or media channels. Justice Minella also referred to a quote from the judgment of the European Court of Human Rights in the case titled Wong v. Australia, application number 22714/93. The court had rejected the application of a journalist and had upheld his conviction and sentence for contempt handed down by the Vienna Court of Appeal. The relevant portion from the judgment is, this must be borne in mind by journalists when commenting on pending criminal proceedings, since the limits of permissible comment may not extend to statements which are likely to be which are likely to prejudice, whether intentionally or not, the chances of a person receiving fair trial or to undermine the confidence of the public in the role of the courts in the administration of criminal justice. And in the end, the formal request, if you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel and press the like and bell button to get the fresh from us. Thank you for watching. Have a nice time and goodbye.